right. Well, why don't we get rolling? Part of the beauty of these particular sessions is that we record them and lots of people watch them on the recording. So we welcome those who are here and we welcome those of you who've tuned in at a later point. My name is Michael Shuman and like to welcome you to what we call Moose's Corner. Why moose? I've been obsessed with moose since I was a small child, and this guy, Mr. Know-It-All, knows almost everything, but he doesn't know everything about local business networks, nor do the rest of us. And so the purpose of these sessions is to get to know innovations, to spread them and make them better. And today, for this month's Moose's Corner, we have Mariah McKay from Spokane, and Spokane's local business network is called SIMBA, the Spokane Independent Metro Business Alliance. The format of how we do these sessions is that Mariah will spend about 20 minutes laying out some key programs that she's particularly proud of. And then we'll have 30 minutes of discussion. And I welcome folks to just unmute yourself at that point and come in and present ideas, questions, and I'll have a bunch too if you don't. And then at the end, we just do a few minutes of kind of popcorning. If you have announcements or things going on in your community that you think are relevant to this group, we welcome your sharing them. A little bit of background about Mariah. I got to know her because she took one of my classes on local investment maybe a year plus ago. And she is the founder, and I love her title, the Director of Dynamism for SIMBA. And she clearly displaced the Secretariat of Slowness. I love Director of Dynamism. Her background is she is involved in everything in Spokane-related civic affairs. She's held political jobs like working with Lisa Brown when she was in the state Senate. She went on to run the Commerce Department for the state of Washington. She's been involved in cultural institutions. The one name that caught me from her resume was Spokane's Shrinking Violet Society. Maybe you can tell us more about that. And then she runs with her husband a small business called Our Natural Homes, which is a co-living rental company. And I again, welcome any information about that as well. So Mariah, over to you, and thank you for coming.
Oh, thanks so much, Michael. I'm excited to see some partners from the Northwest here. I wonder if that was a draw for who decided to show up in person this morning. So I'll spend less time kind of contextualizing where we are in the country. But yes, thanks for turning on your videos. It's good to put faces to names if you're not too shy. I don't believe Sean told us which organization he was with in Virginia. I would be interested to know that. I don't know if he's available.
Sure,
to hop in, but
apologies. My video seems to be always struggles but on this, but I mean I am really on here as an independent kind of contributor. I'm more of an entrepreneur who's working on kind of tech platforms, so I'm not with an official group, so hope that kind of gives you a little bit better background.
Great. Maybe we can hear about that tech platform in the Q&A at the end.
Sure thing.
All right, yeah, so like Michael was saying, I'm a housing entrepreneur in addition to being a community organizer and working in economic development currently. I am the co-founder of a co-housing village here in Spokane called Haystack Heights Co-Housing. We do have a slightly dated website you can check out, SpokaneCohousing.com, but we helped to organize the co-development of a 39-home village in Southeast Spokane. It's a custom designed condominium development with lots of common community amenities on a 3-acre site. But it's a great example of consumer organizing. So you can organize individual households just like you are organizing business organizations in our entities. It's not affiliated with SIMBA, but we don't have time to talk about today how the co-housing project has created a rich environment and resources that SIMBA has been able to leverage as a resident here. So this whole behind me is part of the co-housing. I'm in it right now. Anyhow, and yeah, culturally, gosh, I won't get into the background, but I also started an art and music festival here called Terrain, and that is big now. But yeah, I've been at it for a couple decades. I'm older than I look. I have kind of a baby face, but perhaps we can get into talking about SIMBA and our programs if I can get the screen to be shared on over. And Michael's on mute.
I think you're good.
All right, so I'll hit share screen and here we go. I want to do desktop 2 and I'm just going to let y'all see my notes. They're very sparse, but it'll help us keep on topic with the time we have available. So SIMBA, our mission, building a resilient and equitable regional economy. So I just want to start out, equity's in our mission statement. That was a non-negotiable. That's something that we created the organization to serve. It wasn't an afterthought. It's not something we do on the side. It's the point of the whole work, quite honestly. And we can talk more about that later in the context of some of our programs. We started off more regionally focused on Spokane County and grew through our Buy Local campaign into more regional focus. For those of you who are not familiar with where the Inland Northwest is, it's basically the Upper Columbia River Gorge watershed, which you can see here in this map. And this is Spokane, Spokane Valley, and Coeur d'Alene. So this is the Spokane Coeur d'Alene metro region as seen from the sky. We like to joke that we are the Seattle of Montana, just to put that into perspective. I have both sides of my family migrated through in Western expansion land stealers, quite honestly, in Montana. And when Amoeba was headquartered in Bozeman, I actually got to go on a road trip and go visit the co-directors there. So it's interesting to be a part of this particular geography for a whole variety of reasons. So who is SIMBA? We like to call ourselves a social benefit organization rather than characterizing ourselves as a nonprofit or not-for-profit. When you're organizing businesses, that's a pretty unimpressive way to define yourself. So it's more powerful to say what you are for rather than what you don't do. And I think we should all adopt that language of what we're for rather than what we're not. The whole nonprofit tax designation structure was created in some nefarious ways back in the day. And I don't think we need to limit ourselves to the original vision for that container in our social and economic systems. So SIMBA likes to say we exist to blur the lines between this so-called nonprofit and for-profit sector, because every nonprofit has a bottom line and every business has a social and environmental impact and a political voice. So we try to reintegrate those aspects of constructs that why people think what their purpose in the world is. So we're unique among amoeba entities in that we organize individuals as well as businesses. We call them individuals, consumers, community members, and that's really important. We try to create a spiral upwards, a beneficial relationship between consumers and businesses. And by organizing both constituencies, we can do things that we can't do when people are acting in isolation. So we've been a fiscal sponsee of Amoeba for 6 years. We're finally getting our own 501c3 papers in order, long overdue. But Amoeba has been very good to us and helped get us going back in the day. We also received a small grant, like $3,000 from the previous Spokane Valley chapter. Before that all disappeared. So we are in the direct lineage of that history of our movement. And I used to work at the Main Street Alliance in Seattle, which was the Washington State affiliate of the National Main Street Alliance. So very familiar with their programs and goals and objectives and approaches. We have a wildly varying annual budget, but over the last 6 years, it averages out to about $150,000 a year. I think that's growing now. And we have anywhere between 1 and 4 staff people at any given time. We've created multiple coalitions of similar business organizations in our region. We are the creator of our region's Buy Local campaign. And like Michael intimated, we are very politically active, and that has been successful for us financially. There's a few grants we haven't received for political reasons, but the ones we have received due to those relationships and due to that investment and trust far outweighs the opportunities we've been passed over for due to our strong values forward stance of living out our mission in the area. So what is our mission? We let people know right up front, we are a quadruple bottom line business alliance. And there's a lot of different ways people characterize the quadruple bottom line. Traditionally, I understand it to be people, planet, policy, and profit. And that corresponds nicely to the 4 wings of SIMBA's butterfly. The butterfly is a symbol of transformation. And it's also a strange attractor in terms of mathematics and chaos theory. If you're a geek like that, we can talk about that later. But this symbol is iconic to Spokane because we were actually the site of the world's smallest World's Fair in 1974, Expo 74. And we were the first World's Fair to focus on the theme of environmental restoration and sustainability and the importance of the non-human living world to our economic systems and our well-being. And so there's big butterfly sculptures in our park that is the center of our city. So that's kind of where the butterfly iconography came from. But to us, it really helps visually represent the multifaceted and interlocking nature of our quadruple bottom line mission. So the pink wing, the social inclusion wing, is about people and equity and inclusion. The green wing is about the planet. The purple wing for us is about place. Spokane is known as the Lilac City. Lilacs are a beautiful purple color. And we like to talk about prosperity rather than profit because you can be profitable in a non-monetary way, and prosperity better speaks to that perspective. And so the blue wing of the SIMBA butterfly is our economic equity wing. And I just share that because, what you say you're about really helps attract, your vibe attracts your tribe, right? And SIMBA is pretty clear about what we're about, and that has given us a really strong degree of unity and our board of directors and our membership over the years. This is a very old, sad slide, and it gives me a perspective on how much this campaign has grown. So we've done it on a grassroots basis for 3 years prior to the pandemic, and this was just the title slide of a pitch to the city where we hit pay dirt and we received our first large grant to launch the Live Local directory and marketplace, which I encourage you to look at actually here. We have now over 1,600 businesses participating in this campaign. We are in 4 different subregions of the Inland Northwest, including the Spokane County, Northeast Washington, Southeast Washington, and Central Washington. You can search this incredible community resource by business, and you can also search it by product. It has keyword searching. You can search by sub-neighborhood and town. So for example, these are all the different neighborhoods of the Spokane area, Spokane County cities, the Southeastern Washington area, so on and so forth. You can also search by LGBTQ owned businesses, immigrant owned, women owned, multi-ethnic owned. We didn't drill down to specific ethnic communities because we have partner organizations that specialize in that information, and we wanted them to be the keepers of that specific knowledge and relationship for example, Black businesses and Native businesses, et cetera. But we also feature B corporations, green businesses as a special category, veteran-owned businesses, etc. But it's fun to explore the diversity of products and services available on our website. You can also search, from a consumer standpoint, by you can buy tickets for experiences or services for, salon services or counseling or legal services, accounting services. So we do have a business to business section on the website as well. So let's go back to the presentation. So we started with just these 3 organizations, and now the coalition has 11 different partner entities. And we've done 2 rounds of business regranting. The first program was a $60,000 regranting effort, and the second program was $150,000 of regranting to small businesses to give them marketing grants to incentivize them to co-brand with the Live Local campaign. 7 of the 11 partners are equity-focused business organizations. So SIMBA, along with our Black Business Alliance in Spokane, the Carl Maxey Center, started the Beacon Coalition, the Business Equity Coalition of the Inland Northwest. You can read about that on our website here. And we were noticing that, these communities were hit hardest by the pandemic, and they were not included in the huddle sessions of our Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce has no relationship with these organizations. They're very small. They've been growing rapidly recently, but we needed to come together and coordinate so we could present a united front and really move the needle and change the discussion. And there's a lot more work to do on that strategy-wise. We can talk about if people are interested. And so wow, I'm going to wrap up early, so we'll have more time for deep dialogue, which is great. I guess these slides are a little out of order. I'm going to come to this one last. So we recently were very proud to finally pilot our local frequency, local rewards payment application with Protegra, the creators of the local frequency app. We have more information about this program on our website, livelocalinw.com/local dollars. You can watch these videos to get into the details. But basically, we can offer digital transaction processing fees at cost, and then even at a discount when we reach a certain scale of operations and participants in the program. So right now we're in a pilot mode. We have 25 participating businesses, and we've defined what is a good fit business for the program. We can talk about that if you're interested. And we got grant money to provide free smartphones that transact local dollars pretty much nearly automatically. We are comping businesses for the transaction fees as an incentive to join the pilot. Next year, we're going to transition to a revenue-based model that will help cover the costs of running the program into the future when we're not grant funded. And eventually we'll have a lot of great features for community economic development. So each business will be able to have a roundup at the register feature. There will be, small, like a transaction fee that can help fund the Beacon Coalition and the partners that are involved in it. So for Black Business Month, all the roundup at the register fees can go to the Carl Maxey Center, and each partner in the Beacon Coalition can have a different calendar year of the month for Hispanic Heritage Month and the a.a.a. Heritage Month, and so on and so forth. So that helps to spread the butter around and create buy-in for this being a community brand. So you can see, SIMBA, we have our own organizational brand, but we had to create the community campaign with something different than SIMBA's brand, so that everyone could participate in owning this look and feel and mission. There is a 7-minute video. Maybe Michael, if you could grab that in your email and drop it in the chat for everyone to watch later, about a recent campaign we completed with the Department of Commerce. We had 3.5 months to spend $983,000 with one staff person. That was fun. But we hired some incredible talent from our community and we made it all happen. In the future, aside from just saving on transaction fees, typically businesses are paying 3 to 5%. We can offer 1.9% transaction fee rate. In the future, we're going to get rid of Visa and MasterCard fees, and this is how we're going to do it. And I don't expect, these are very tiny arrows. I don't think your eyes will be able to follow them this quickly, but basically this is a visual representation of how relocalizing our digital payment infrastructure from the big tech companies that are essentially charging all of our members a corporate tax just for, the pleasure of doing business on their systems. By taking that system back and running it locally, we can use values-aligned, mission-aligned credit unions to move digital dollars in our community in a clear and accountable way that doesn't cost us usurious rates, just because Visa and MasterCard have a global monopoly on digital transaction systems. So that's pretty exciting. And last but not least, want to touch on our program with the Office of Community Engagement at the State Department of Commerce. This has been a program we actually helped to co-develop. So we were one of the founding first 10 organizations to create this program with Commerce. And now there's over 37 contractors in the pool providing services across the state for this program. Maybe I should be dropping these links into the chat, but you can learn more about this program on their website. So, and they have a nice little video here that overviews the program and what we provide. And so some of our wins from our involvement in this over the last 3 years, we've personally served over 2,300 businesses with one-on-one technical assistance appointments. And these are, 95% of these businesses are not our members. And some of them are kind of economically precarious by nature of the target audience of the program. So that there's not a high conversion to membership, but it is part of our, people who learn about the organization. Sometimes they do join as members, especially when we help them win grants and they can afford to join as members. So we serve about 55 to 75, sometimes more individual businesses every month. For the history of the program, the share of our clients have always been 50 to 80% or more BIPOC, immigrant owned, or LGBTQ plus owned, even though Spokane County is 85% white and most numbers say 90% straight. And then we have assisted with netting $3.2 million in business relief grants in our clientele over the last number of years. And we did some analysis and learned that businesses who sought SIMBA technical assistance with their grant applications were twice as likely to receive support as all other businesses that applied for the grants combined. And that includes businesses that received technical assistance from other technical assistance provider organizations. So that's a pretty fantastic track record for us and has made us very sought after. And we have developed some incredible systems for technical assistance intake. Our website's a little slow and we're going to be relaunching it here soon, but we operate on HubSpot. And so there's a request TA meeting intake form. And so a lot of this is automated on the back end. So when people request assistance, they automatically get an email with our, calendars for scheduling, and that automatically shows up on our calendars. And we have this great system. If people are interested in taking a look at our HubSpot, we've created a lot of custom reports that help us be compliant with the federal reporting requirements of the Small Business Resilience Network contract that we receive each month and bill for each month. And that's been a real learning curve for us as well. So that I'm going to stop and there's my time. Thank you, time timer. And you can just disregard that. It'll stop and let's open it up for Q&A. And I'll stop the screen share. Michael's still on mute.
Thank you, Mariah. That was great. I've got lots of questions, but I'm going to let others go first. So Diane, Sean, others gathered, please let us know what's on your mind.
Sure, maybe I can ask one. So Mariah, as far as your, you said you have 25 businesses that are piloted, I think, currently. Did you start with a smaller number and seeing how it's went with the smaller number of businesses before kind of expanding? And the other part was, just to clarify, are they all in Spokane, all 25?
No, they're not. So we started with 10, and now we're at 25. And the purpose of the large contract we received from Commerce through a program called the Small Business Innovation Fund was to enhance online commerce opportunities. And so we actually took the local frequency application as it was traditionally implemented, and we created a protocol for people to be able to use local dollars remotely to include rural communities in the transaction network for the Inland Northwest to match the region of the Buy Local campaign that we run, Live Local Inland Northwest. And so the first 10 businesses were actually all e-pay businesses. But we've since gone back, and most of the businesses are in-person pay businesses. So there's two ways you can transact with us on local dollars: remotely or in person with the smartphones, and then, just the scanning the consumer's QR code account and debiting their balance on the system.
Oh, very cool.
It is very cool. We're the first. It's not, I won't say e-pay is an elegant option. There are some restrictions depending on what kind of systems businesses are using. And it's not necessarily intuitive or automated depending on what platform a business is using. Does not play nice with Square, but it can work with other sales systems. So we have a lot of information we've learned the hard way about who's a good fit for e-pay and who isn't. But it can also be very low tech. So if a business is willing to do custom orders and is like, maybe they're an art crafts person who sells at farmers markets and maybe only has a Facebook website, and we get them on our directory, so they have a web presence outside of corporate social media, very important. Our website also generates a lot of like shareable links on their social media, so it kind of creates, it's a content creator that's automated and helps professionalize some of these retailers when they're selling like custom products like a painting or a handmade doll or something like that. And it helps people share out that product link and whatnot. There's a lot of fun SEO benefits that we've created for businesses. And anyway, they can just be emailed through our website and be given an order number and buy with local dollars through email or phone. So that's very low tech. So we span the high tech, people doing, automations with all the fancy systems that are out there, and very low tech for people who don't have any of that and don't want any of that. And actually the local frequency pilot and what we'll hope to rebrand in the future as a, market revenue program in local dollars is actually the first loyalty rewards program their business has actually implemented. So it's pretty cool.
So you have customers that have this, high tech, low tech options that will go into these businesses, to, buy their products and services. Do they? You said it's high tech and low tech. Is it? It's the app, right? That you try to get most of them on.
Oh yeah, we have one centralized app.
Yeah. Cool.
But you can use it in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and those businesses, I was curious to. Yeah, go ahead.
Or like I can go to a specific business like Inland Empire Spice, and I can pay for online order. And then I enter an order number and I enter an amount and I hit send. And so this is the e-pay option that we've developed protocols for different types of businesses to integrate or utilize.
Okay, yeah, no, that's all really cool stuff, by the way. But yeah, no, and I was asking that, the reason I was curious about, like, hey, how did you start with a couple businesses and then you grow, and are they all in Spokane or are they distributed? I was curious to how much of that of your strategy is kind of like organic, that where you have probably have some customers that want to purchase from one particular establishment you have on the app. And how many of them are finding a second establishment that they want to start purchasing on? So
This pilot was launched 4 months ago, so we don't have enough user data yet to really say anything meaningful about cross-business discovery. But we know from other markets that have operated more at scale, like in Canada, that was definitely a major benefit of having a shared payment app platform that local businesses use together. Is people do discover other businesses through the payment system. And it reduces the cost to small businesses of discovering those frequent flyer customers, those regulars that are the make it or break it difference in uncertain times like with the pandemic. I mean, some of our local businesses that have those loyal regulars didn't have any problems at all during the pandemic. Actually, they were going gangbusters, like our local bakery, the Grain Shed, which is a worker-owned cooperative that's 2 blocks from my house here in the Perry district in Spokane, just kept growing through the pandemic because that's the kind of customers that they attracted, rather than drive-through customers, one and done customers.
cool. Very cool. Thank you for entertaining my questions. I can let someone else ask a couple.
So I'll just add in here that local frequency is one of a bunch of local loyalty systems that have emerged in the last 10-ish years. Many came and went. Local frequency is one of the few that stuck around. They started in Manitoba, Winnipeg, and there now are systems, smallish systems in Juneau and Durango. And Mariah, one question I have for you is, as you were thinking about this and thinking about a loyalty system, did you look at competing systems? And what made you decide to go with local frequency?
Yes, we did pretty comprehensive research, and people kind of were frustrated. There was a long time to implement because of, I think, the diversity of our audiences. We don't serve giant corporations that have automatic scalability. So there's kind of 10 years of mucking around in this space is what it felt like. And everyone was like, don't do it. You're going to spin out. You're going to get stuck. It's not going to, the time in, time out isn't worth it. But we knew we had to do something, even if it wasn't what we always did. We had to train our community to think as a team economically. Because right now, as a community organizer, I think it's really important to realize you can't do community organizing if you don't have a community to organize. And small businesses, our constituents, are some of the most hard-headed, independent-minded. They're not used to collaborating. They're used to looking out for themselves. That's how they manage to exist in this, capitalist system, even if they share our personal values and, social values and whatnot. And so getting them to actually feel in their pocketbooks that they are pulling together through a program like this is even if it's not penciling out and not making SIMBA tons of money, it is valuable from a speaking to businesses in their own language standpoint, to show them that we have the capacity to do things like this together that they would never do on their own. It's a showing, not telling benefit. And so that's why we took the risk of brokering this partnership. And quite honestly, I just really like Tyler. So Tyler kind of convinced me, because I really enjoy him and have always connected well with him. And he shares my vision for economic change. And so I wanted to help him show people that this is possible.
That's great. And you do, so you said that this year you're kind of comping businesses for any fees involved, but next year you expect it to generate revenue. Do you have a sense of what kind of scale it needs to go to break even?
That's a great question. Now, fortunately, Protegra only charges as you make money on the system. And the WorldPay fees for our digital transaction account on the back end is also pretty minimal. And so when we pass on the 1.9% to participants, we're still beating most of the market averages, and we're going to be instituting a 1% cash back to all customers. And so that'll really fulfill the original marketing value proposition of the program. That, it's like a community credit card with benefits. You get 1% back, and then eventually you can do a frictionless free load, digital pay by so and such credit union. But in a way, I want everyone to hear this. We received a $25,000 corporate sponsorship from a local credit union. I will give them credit, GISA Credit Union, before we even launched the pilot, because that is how interested they are in new fintech initiatives.
That's great. Yeah.
So, we're already in the black from that perspective. So the marketing, advertising you can sell through sponsorships on the platform is a major revenue generator. You have to be savvy and clear-headed to make that happen every month, or however you package it. But for us, it makes sense. We're making the road by walking it, and there's so much happening with Web3 and like NFTs and all this other kind of stuff. To have your community have any kind of infrastructure and any kind of list, and to build a consumer audience that is actually participating in this space, this capacity we're building can then evolve with us and do a lot of other interesting things in the future, because what we're building is a trust network, right? And that's going to become preeminent as things get wild and wacky into the 21st century.
So you're marketing to two different constituencies, though. One is to the businesses, which you've been doing since the outset, and the other is to the consumers, who hopefully will start carrying this app. How are you reaching consumers?
I want to go back to my slides and show you that diagram we were looking at earlier.
Cool. Okay.
I'm in the wrong window. Give me a second here. I'm a chronic too many tabs person. And anyways, and I was going to also give you the link to our campaign video. Share in the chat, copy. And so copy this and put this in a tab of your own on your end. There, that's in the chat. Accidentally minimized us. The short answer is we had an $80,000 advertising budget from this recent campaign to run hundreds of Google ads, YouTube ads, Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, every kind of digital ad. We bought all of our community media spots for 3 months. We did a really cool partnership with one of our neighborhood business districts called the North Monroe Business District. And we gave them a grant to sponsor $50 consumer incentives for the first 150 customers who signed up for the program. So it was a matching load. So if you loaded $100 or more onto your local frequency app, the North Monroe Business District would transfer an additional $50 into your local frequency account. And we had $3,250 paid out through that means. So divide that by 50. That's the number of people who took advantage of the offer. But it all happened very quickly. It was a federal treasury deadline. We would have never have chosen a crazy implementation timeframe like that. It was wild. I'm still recovering, a couple months later. But we did it, and our team we all worked together. People were so focused. We hired 34 different contractors to make that campaign possible.
Do you have a sense of how many people then have downloaded the app in Spokane?
I think we have about 115 consumers that are participating right now.
Okay, cool. Other folks have questions or comments? Welcome, Jennifer. Well, if others do not, and please interrupt me if you do, I've got a few others as well. So one one thing I'm kind of curious about, knowing a little bit about Spokane, and you intimated this, it is not Seattle. It is a much more conservative metropolis, and as you said, capital of Montana, and a little bit of Idaho in there as well. And so how, I mean, do you feel like you've been able to sell your message to some of the more conservative business owners, or do you just say they're not sufficiently interested in equity and we're gonna not focus on them?
That's a great question. Yes, conservatives, right-wingers, Republicans, all of the above. There's a lot of different flavors of that around here. We're surrounded by it. It's part of our history. It's where our culture is at. They love this campaign. They love buy local. Are you kidding me? This is like the most bipartisan issue. And this is another reason why we separated our organizational brand from the campaign brand, is because SIMBA is where the politics and the transformation happens. Live local is where people get together and focus on what they can agree on. So we have an inside outside strategy. And even though we're a small organization, we can come at it from both directions whenever it makes sense and is needed. So it's a really powerful way to be nimble and fluid in a challenging kind of razor wire environment where there's just not a lot of room to make a mistake. There's been times over our 6-year history where we were this close to SIMBA shutting down. Honestly, it was a $30,000 grant from the Enatai Foundation at the beginning of the pandemic that saved our bacon. They pulled us out like I was ready to go get my real estate license, you know? So it's been tough, but we've made it through.
Yeah. Well, I guess, you know, a related question on the politics is, I mean, you have some really good criteria on the quadruple bottom line. So last night, the standout Republican in the debate, Vivek Ramaswamy, he has made his entire credibility on attacking ESG. So I'm wondering, how are you negotiating ESG issues with the more conservative members you have?
I'm sorry, that's an acronym we don't typically use around here. What does ESG stand for?
Environmental, social, and governance. So it's just, yeah, it's a variation of the 4-leaf clover you showed.
Mm-hmm. So how do we sell people who don't get that on that?
Yeah, I mean, and I assume that there are some members in your, I mean, yeah, your 25 people, your 25 businesses on local frequency are probably true believers, but you probably have a larger circle of people you're communicating with and the organization is touching. And how do you bring them in?
Well, nobody is outwardly against DEI. In fact, there's a lot of tokenism that happens in our area. And, you know, the BIPOC-led business chambers are sick of that, except one who's more like the biggest, most established, oldest one is willing to take anybody's money. And so there's some tension in the old school, new school theories of change and time horizons for change and lived histories of, you know, code switching and assimilation versus, and all the different tensions therein of how how much they conform to what the dominant order requires to show up or not. It's very complicated. And the Business Equity Coalition has, we've had a lot of tragedies. One of our co-founders was killed in a plane accident. Another former executive director of another organization just had his house burned down in Medical Lake last week, completely lost. Beautiful home they spent his life building. So we're really barely holding it together out here, but this coalition is a place where there are relationships among these organizations to discuss these strategic issues to the degree to which we've built trust and a safe container in which we can discuss them openly. And I know most communities don't have that kind of solidarity. And I think the reason Spokane has that kind of solidarity, even though we're a smaller city, our metro is 500,000 and our city is 250,000, is because we are surrounded by people who don't see it, don't, think that there should be a state Chamber of Commerce program to help BIPOC LGBTQ immigrant businesses. They think that's reverse discrimination, right? So it's so contextual. If someone's like, I don't agree with you, I have to look at what I know about them and code switch and basically explain it to them in their own language in a way that they agree. I have a lot of practice with that because I grew up here. I grew up not even in the city limits, in a white Christian middle-class suburb. And I know how to, get inside of their mind and, reorient in a way that, oh, of course. No, well, now that you say it that way, yes, we're about that.
Yeah, that's great. Well, let me ask one other question. I watched your video this morning, and there was a reference in there that one virtue of your campaign, your marketing campaign, is that the sales of participating businesses went up by 7.5%. How did you document that?
No, that was us citing Amoeba's research.
Oh, Amoeba's research. Okay, got it. I got that wrong.
Expected results. And there's been no way for us to document that until we've launched the app. So now we can use the app data as a proxy for how the overall campaign is doing. Got it.
Okay, that makes sense.
The app data is, collected every time a transaction is made. Finally, because we were a referral website, but now that we're actually conducting transactions, now we have a built-in evaluation system. But the question is, we still have to guess what percentage of our transactions that come in through the campaign are being conducted on the payment platform versus people using other systems and clicking through on a product on our website to the business's website and buying it there. And I'm, right now, maybe it's 5%. I don't know. It could, we'll have to try to grow that over the years, but at least it gives us year after year performance data for like the holiday shopping campaigns and such.
Right. Very cool. So I want to go back to one question because I felt like you answered a different question, and that is, did you look at other systems besides local frequency, and what were the ones that intrigued you if others are going to do an evaluation like this?
We talked to Localite for a while. We interviewed the buy local Sonoma County folks who worked with they got a debit card special, that was cool. But there's also a lot of issues with it, and they structured it as a cooperative, and that became very complicated, and so on and so forth. So yeah, those were some of the more developed ones, but and I know there's been more that have come out recently. But again, it's, I have a trusting working relationship with Tyler. He's been very generous with his time over the years, and then we were finally able to pay him back through this last contract. So, he believes in us and we believe in him. And so it's going to be hard for some other, Southern California tech startup to get in between us.
Right. Great. So let us transition now to anyone else who has any quick announcements or things they want to share that are going on in their own community. Jennifer, what's going on in Louisville?
I'm just coming back from some time away and getting in the swing of things and wanted to pop in and hear the tail end of the conversation, and I'm going to listen to the recording for the beginning. We're just shifting gears from summer fairs into holiday planning and other kind of stuff. So,
All right. Very
nothing
good.
earth shattering here.
Catherine, what's going on in your neck of the woods?
Yeah. So first, Mariah, I want to thank you. That was a very interesting presentation. We are also working on a Department of Commerce pilot program for a kind of food retail rejection hub. So creating a platform where businesses and food assistance organizations have access to farm seconds and foods that are rejected at stores, in the hopes of, democratizing access to those products. Whereas like traditionally the larger food banks have more access than smaller organizations. And what we are working through right now is the tech component of all of this. The platform that we are using was recently bought by another company. So we're trying to figure out if we can still use it or if we'll have to pivot to a different platform to use to conduct these transactions. And so hearing about what you have done to research platforms for business transactions was helpful. But yeah, we're still in the contracting phase of that grant. So we'll give you updates later on as that progresses.
Have you met with Vince Peak of Share Farm out here?
I have not personally. Not sure if others on my team have. Could you repeat that name, Vin?
Yeah, share.farm, Vincent Peak. He's a longtime SIMBA strengthening member. He specializes in agricultural seconds exchange platforms.
Nice. Oh,
He's actually doing it.
Amazing to know. Yeah.
He should be your guy.
Okay.
You should, when you reach out to him, let him know that I told you to do that. Very important to me that you mentioned that.
Yes. Yeah. Me too.
Really impressed with how far he's already gotten with this. You don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Exactly. And that is good to hear because we do not want to reinvent the wheel.
So Victoria, what's going on in your world?
So I actually got this invite from Diane. Diane and I are coworkers at Northwest Cooperative Development Center, and I am a resident of Spokane. So I joined. I was like, oh yes, I need to know more. I'm very familiar with the stuff that Mariah talked about. I didn't know who Mariah was, but I'm very familiar. So I just wanted to pop in and hear some insights on how we got to where we are. And Mariah, I'll probably reach out to you because I have some. I would love your insight on a few things that I'm working on. But I'm a cooperative developer for manufactured housing. So this is not my wheelhouse, but that's why I'm here.
Right, but hopefully you're a phone carrying member of local frequency SIMBA.
Well, so I actually live there's actually several small Christian rural towns around Spokane. So I'm not sure which one you were talking about, Mariah, but I live in one of them. And so I wasn't in Spokane when all that activity was happening. So I was skirted around. I'm not actively in Spokane and supporting Spokane businesses as often, though I do support Grain Shed, and I'm a very big fan of the work that Joel is doing in Spokane right now, actually.
Yeah, he was our founding board secretary.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff that he's doing is incredible and innovative, and yeah, it's awesome.
Great. Sean, anything you'd like to share?
No, not really. I I'm here kind of representing myself and still kind of just doing a lot of learning, doing a lot of research, and not doing anything that'd be too exciting for this group in the coming months. But thanks for allowing me to come in and ask questions and listen.
All right. And hello, Michael Linton. You've come in for the last 2 minutes. Michael Linton is a great pioneer in local currencies, so it's great to have you.
Oh, wow. After
You
the
are
record
muted, however.
stops, I'd love to stay on and hear from him.
Let's see if he can unmute. There he goes.
There we go. Yes, my apologies. Conflicts in calendar, otherwise I'd have been here. Will this be recorded? It is recorded.
It is you're being recorded at this very moment.
So I look forward to watching what happened in the last hour.
Please do, and I think you and Mariah should talk about some of the things that you both have in common.
Delighted. Love to, Mariah. Let's do that, yes.
That's great. Well, let me just, so to wrap up here, let me just say we will do this in a month. Our next person presenting is Kathleen Rourke from Grand Rapids, Michigan. We're still figuring out the exact day, but it'll be roughly a month from now. So you are all on our mailing list and we will reach out to you. Please join me in thanking Mariah for really some interesting stuff and great work you're doing. So appreciate your coming and joining us today.
Pleasure to be here.
Mhm.
And if anyone wants to stay after, I found my slide and we can get into the details of this 5-way partnership for local digital loyalty transactions.
Oh, goody.
And also
Yes.
show you a sneak preview of my HubSpot reporting dashboard if you're a person who aspires to manage federal grants, because what we've done with our data is incredible.
All right, we'll keep the video rolling and keep the room open for a few minutes if anyone wants to stick around.
I'd be delighted.
Heading on to the next thing, but thanks so much for the offer and looking forward to watching the beginning. Thanks, Mariah.
Hi, Jen.
And Michael.
Thank you.
And Jen.
Jen, I have to run to a phone call, but I'll leave my video open because I might take us down if I close it.
There he goes.
So
All
here
right.
we are.
Yeah, there's so much. I think Jen will probably appreciate this more than anyone else I'm familiar with on the call, but let me share screen again and desktop 2 and check this out. So this is our reports dashboard for the Small Business Resilience Network contract that I was telling you all about earlier. So this is how I got all those numbers. The total number of clients served. This is before we used HubSpot. And so we started off with the data bank because that was the CRM that Amoeba recommended we use way back in the day. B Corp out of St. Paul, Minneapolis, Minnesota. But importing that data into the system was very difficult. But you can see we finally adopted it now. And so you can see how many TA sessions were conducted, how many unique individuals were served every month. You can see their racial breakdown. So you can, by clicking on this, I could go to a specific list of Black businesses served in just that month, or, Hispanic or Latino, American Native or Alaska Native, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We can customize all of these different categories. We can track total numbers of meetings, text messages, tasks completed, so on and so forth. We can tell about their non-racial demographic data. So if they're entrepreneurs living with disabilities, LGBTQIA2S+, immigrants. In Spokane, there's a big white immigrant population with Ukrainian refugees in particular. So there's a lot of overlap here. But this is really helpful data when you are thinking about writing grants. So like, for example, I know that there's a new foundation in Seattle specializing in neurodiversity access and equity. I learned this because I myself am an adult who lives with diagnosed ADHD, and so I'm very interested in these things as a member of that constituency, and I can track. I know, so we have people living with physical disabilities, but we also have people living with cognitive differences, as well as physical capacity differences. And so I have this data right here to tell them how many entrepreneurs, neurodivergent entrepreneurs, I'm already serving every month, for example.
Mariah, do you get this information from the intake form? Are they volunteering this information?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
And there's also, unknown, an unknown category they can select, or, other, or not report.
Yep.
We know most of our people, and if we don't know them, when we serve them, we get to know them. And so we've had to create systems for going back into our contacts and updating this information, then it automatically publishes to these reports.
Cool.
And yeah, so internally we use it as a project management software for, service request tickets. We can track how many referrals were inside to other contractors versus other businesses in the community that are not contractors to the program. We can track gender, non-binary, genderqueer, trans, male, female, etc. It's just, yeah, and we're doing more to plug in our website traffic and our social media pages traffic, so we can see what our reach is every month. And yeah, so it just goes on, and you can just create all kinds of reports. You can see the team members who's done what. Apparently I've done 1,009 actions or activities. So yeah, so it helps for team performance as well. People want to make sure that their stuff is shown up there. So it's an incentive to input their data. So total number of meetings, yeah, on and on. So you get the idea. I'll stop the screen share.
Thanks for showing us that.
Yeah, took a lot of effort. Took
Yeah.
way too long. People initially underestimated the sophistication it would take to fully implement this kind of a system. And I'd say right now we're about 70% of the way there.
Okay, awesome.
Very impressive.
Oh, you missed most of it, Michael. You'll have to go back to the beginning, and then you'll have all kinds of questions and we can do a follow-up.
Well, indeed. My interest, of course, is in sort of multiplier effects in the economy and the flow of patterns of money. Now, anytime we want to talk about that, I'd be delighted, but my apologies for missing. It was an oversight on my part that I couldn't fix at the last minute, but I look forward to watching the recording.
Great. No, glad you could make it.
Well, I hope I can make it again next month.
Wonderful.
Michael and I have met regularly by coincidence.
No.
We were at a conference called Fate of the Earth in Ottawa in 85 or 6, and found ourselves in adjacent seats on a flight to California.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay. So we've just had these synchronous conjunctions showing up, and
Nice.
I feel we're in for another series of them fairly soon. I look forward to meeting you
Wonderful.
again.
Yeah.
I'll take leave. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Thank you again, Mariah, and thanks everybody else. And we'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks, friends. Bye.